Good evening, everyone.
Kodesh Tov, Kavanav.
English Tov, thank you. Okay. So, as we said right yesterday, just to review this point, right, we have this contradiction here going on. That according to Rabbi Eliezer, we said he did it very quickly, the sex act, in order to reduce his pleasure. Right, that was the idea there. But then, right, comes and asks a question on that. And who's asking the question here? The Ravad. So what's the question he's asking? But in the Talmud, right, somewhere else, it says something else, just the opposite. That it's good to, actually go a long time with your wife. This way, if she climaxes first, so you'll have a son, it says that that's why it's better for the husband to go slowly. So if that's the case, so how do we reconcile these two things? So, so he answers, So he said, really, Hashem wants your, good intentions. So therefore, if you do, for L'Shem Shemaim, for the sake of heaven, Tovim, it's good. Whatever you do for the sake of heaven, it's good. So if you do it quickly for the sake of heaven, it's also good. If you do it slowly, that's also good. Most important thing is it should be L'Shem Shemaim. So it says, whoever knows how to do this, has the skills, right? To go slowly, right? And this way, your wife climaxes first. So that's good. Try that, go for it, right? And he won't get distracted, right, by the delay and start thinking about something else or somebody else, right? Whatever it is. As we said, that's not good, right? Think about somebody else. והוא משאיר עצמו כדי שתהנה אישה מן האיש ותזריע תחילה, מכוון לעשות מצווה, הקדוש ברוך הוא משלם לו שכרו. So Hashem pays him his reward for doing it לשם שמיים. That's what he says. Banim Zacharim with male children, right? By the way, why do we prefer to have boys than girls? Well, what's the reason for that? Something wrong with girls?
For the boys to study Torah, כמותרה?
I'm sorry?
The boys study Torah?
Yeah, it's true, but I mean, it's everything is according to Hashem, right? Whatever they do. So why is it better to have a boy?
Because it could be the Messiah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, but I mean, that could be, one out of a zillion, right? Whatever, but I mean, we're not relying on that. So why is it better to have a boy? So the truth is, that the Chazal say like this. There's a Gemara like this, Fortunate is the one who has a boy, and right, the one who has a girl is unfortunate. That's what it says. Why is that? What's the reason? What's wrong with a girl? Right? So the reason it says because girls can get into trouble, they're more prone to get into trouble, because they go outside, and some bad, right, some bad people, try to play games with them, all kinds of stuff like that, So they're more prone to mishaps, the girls, because they're more susceptible. That's what it is, So you got to watch out for them more, what I mean? You got to watch the girls. Make sure they don't get into trouble. So it's like sort of it's like you're doing like two jobs in one, like so it's hard to raise a girl, to keep her out of trouble. I mean, that's the whole thing. So that's why, it's just easier to have a boy because of that, because the boy, okay, whatever, but it can't be as bad as what happens to a girl, that's what happened to the daughter of Yaakov, right? Dinah, she got into trouble. You know what I mean? Because she wanted to go outside. She was outgoing, She was outgoing girl. So I went out and she got raped, by some lunatic right in the street. You know what I mean? Some criminal. So this is what happens, when girls get into trouble. So this is the reason, I remember like 4 years ago, I posted, this Rambam, that it's not good for girls to go out too much. To be in the street, whatever, to go out. And there was some lady, who started to complain about this. You know what I mean? And she was like, she got offended by that. What are you talking about? So we had some kind of a argument about this in the beginning. I remember, and then afterwards everything calmed down, and now just recently, she reposted my post again. And she's like asking people, "Do you think this is right? What this rabbi posted?" You know what I mean? I was like, "What did you make a popularity contest?" You know what I mean? This is the words of the Rambam. What are you judging? You're judging the Rambam, And where does the Rambam get it from? Gets it from the Talmud, So what are you judging the Torah? You're making a judgment out of it, and it's like making a popularity contest on Facebook. Yeah, okay, how many votes that it's good, and how many vote that it's not good? That's a disrespect to the Torah. When you do this kind of thing. You know what I mean? Who are you to judge the Torah? The words of the Torah. Crazy, this kind of thing. So, that's the thing, that's why the girls, that's why we prefer to have boys, because there's less troubles with them usually. Okay, whatever, right? It's a whole discussion in itself, but just, to make the point, because it says over here, oh yeah, you'll have boys. Well, why boys? Well, why not girls? Like, what's wrong with a girl? So the truth is, that sometimes girls are better in a sense, because they're more helpful, in the family, they help more, they whatever. So they, there's more, they contribute more to the family than the boys do. The boys are always outside, but the girls are home, so they're doing more stuff for the parents. So in that sense, the girl is better, so but it depends, right? Really, but okay, you get the point. So anyway. So what do we see from there, right? We see from there that being outgoing is not a good, not a good characteristic for a woman, according to the Torah. You like it or not, you don't accept it, you do accept it. That's the way it is. So what can I tell you? That's why it says in the right in the Mishlei, "Kol kavud bat melech penima." Right? What does that mean? the honor of the Jewish woman is to be at home. And not, being outside, here, there, jumping here, jumping there. Right? That's not the kavod for the woman. Okay, it's all discussion in itself. Anyway, right, getting back to our discussion here. So as we said, right, that he has to. The most important thing is to be, to do it leshem shemaim. Whatever he does, right? Whether he's a quick guy, he's a quickie, right, or he's a slow guy, right, whatever. He takes his time. It's all good, but as long as you're doing it leshem shemaim. That's the most important thing. There's a Shulchan Aruch, right? It says something very important, by the way. Shulchan Aruch, right? It says, that a person can make everything he does into a mitzvah. Whether it's going to the bathroom or eating or sleeping, just regular things, your daily functional things going on. How is it a mitzvah? Because you're doing everything l'shem shemaim. So what does that mean? I'm eating now because I should, to have the strength to serve God. I'm sleeping now, then I should be alert, to serve God. If that's the way you think, right, about everything you do in your life, so then everything you do becomes a mitzvah. That's the thing, And here, same thing over here. That's what we're talking about here. So it's all a matter. So we all do the same things, all human beings, we do the same thing, We get up, we eat, we go, to work, right? We eat and we, go here and go there and go shopping, all those things that we do, right? But the question is, what are you thinking when you do these things? What's your thought pattern? Are you thinking about serving Hashem, or are you just thinking about satisfying your own lusts? Being selfish. That's the question. So that's what a tzaddik is. A tzaddik is somebody. Everything he does is l'shem shemaim. Okay, so that's what he's trying to say here. So he says, so he says, but if somebody who's not having confidence for that, right? To take your time, go slow, right? Take it easy. If you don't have the confidence for that, so then, better just to go quick, to do a quickie, and to finish it off, right? You're not a big performer anyway, as it is, right? You know what I mean? So if not, so then do what you can do, and right, go on with your life. Okay, that's what we're trying to say over here. Good. So we also described, right, all these things, in the Shulchan Aruch, right, about the issue of the how to be clothed when you're having intercourse. What should you be wearing? What should you be not wearing? Right. So we went through that yesterday. If you have any questions, you can ask about that. But as we said, right, that there's different approaches to that. Here we find, these approaches over here where these saintly rabbis, did everything to diminish, right, the sexual pleasure. You know what I mean? So they would, do all kinds of things like that. Like not be totally naked, and all kinds of things like that. Right? Only reveal what you have to reveal. Don't reveal anymore. Then we also did say, right, that according to Kabbalah, it's not like that really, right? According to Zohar Kabbalah, you're supposed to be naked actually, when you're doing sex, and but you should be covered with a blanket, as we said, right? That's the Kabbalistic way. Why is that? Because we want that the husband and the wife should be like totally together, without any partition. Nothing should be parting, with them, Nothing, no clothing there. It should be like body to body, That's it. So then why do they need a blanket? What's the reason why? If you tell me this, you're a genius. There's two reasons for this, There's a simple reason and there's a deeper reason. Kabbalistic
Not to see the herba.
Right.
Not-
What?
not to-
What you shouldn't see?
Yeah, we shouldn't see each other's boss.
Yeah. I mean, you're right. What you're saying is right. In other words, it's a matter of modesty. That's like a simple explanation. It's modesty. Whatever. Yeah, it's true. You know. But according to Kabbalah, there's a different reason for this. So, what is the Kabbalistic reason? So, it says that like this. That in the Zohar, I saw this in the Zohar myself. It says in the Zohar that what happens is that when man and woman, have sexual relations naked. So what happens is, right, that the Sitra Achra, the Satan, the bad angels, right, they get jealous of you. So they start to make accusations against you. You know what I mean? It's like a jealousy kind of thing. Accusations, when they see that you're naked. So therefore, in order to avoid these accusations, says the Zohar, you should cover yourself with a blanket. So yeah, that's a Kabbalistic kind of thing, but it is what it is. I can't tell you. But you know where we learned this, right? From the Bible. From Adam and Chava, right? It says that the snake was jealous because they were naked, and having relations. This is why he got jealous of them. So you see, right, that it's in the Bible. This whole story. That's how the whole world got into trouble, because the snake got jealous of them. And that's why I gave them, the seduction and all that stuff, right? Where did this come from? From having sex naked. Right? So you see, it's a real thing there. Okay?
Is it different if you have the lights off, though? We may have covered this. Sorry, I just got here.
Yeah, that's the thing, right? That's interesting what you're asking. It's an interesting question. It doesn't, regarding this issue, it doesn't really help. You know why? Because they can see you even in the dark. They're not humans, so they don't need the lights to see you. But what do you call it? What you're talking about, regarding the darkness, we're going to talk about that, by the way, probably, like very soon. Right now, we're going to get into that, the issue of having lights on. There's two other considerations. That's why we don't want to have, we don't have relations in the light, because they say it causes a defect in the child. The child comes out epileptic. If they have sex, with the lights on, it causes epilepsy. That's what it says in the Talmud.
I thought it had to do with that the husband should not find a blemish on his wife and be like.
Right, that's the other Gemara. There's two Gemarot. One says like you, one says like me. So both those reasons exist. So what would be the practical difference? Because let's say your wife is like absolutely gorgeous, right? And she has no blemishes, so you're not going to see any blemishes on her, but still, right, there's the reason of the epilepsy. Or also, alternatively, it could be that you're not having children, right? So the epilepsy issue doesn't exist there. So then you have the other issue, right, of finding a blemish in your wife. So it depends on the situation, right? They can both apply, or only one of them applies, right? Sometimes, whatever. But anyway, that's the reason why you're not supposed to do it in daylight. All right. So I'm not talking about daylight, by the way. I'm talking about candles or electric lights. Because as we said, right, in the daytime, we already mentioned it's not really good to have relations if you're having children, right? We said, because the child won't come out, so he won't be such a spiritual guy, a very mediocre kind of guy. I mean, he's going to be one of those, what do you call it? He's going to be a Gilgul, reincarnated, with issues. He had issues in his last lifetime. He came to fix up his issues. So meanwhile, you'll be suffering with this guy. God forbid, right? So it depends on the situation. But anyway, right here, it doesn't really matter if the lights are on regarding this issue, because these these angels, they see you anyway. It doesn't matter whether the lights are on or not. But when you're covered, they're not jealous of you. So, okay, whatever. We got the point, right? There's a lot of interesting things in the Torah. And lots of wisdom. Okay. So anyway, let's go on. So we already mentioned yesterday also the issue, right? That again, right, if you're having children, especially, you should try to have intercourse in the middle of the night, right? In other words, wait until midnight, and don't be like having sex, like 8:30 at night after dinner. It's a little bit too early. Wait a little bit, get some sleep first, take a nap, wake up around 1 o'clock in the morning, right? Then that's the best time, something like that. And we said, right, what's the reason for that? Because the child will come out to be, more spiritual like that. You get a better soul like that when you do it after midnight. Yeah, so there's we're gonna get into all kinds of things now. There's still a lot more to cover here, but I think we should finish it this week. So Bezrat Hashem, we'll see. So let's go on. So now, right, it gets into this whole issue. Right? Also, we don't want like you talking to your wife, during intercourse or like right before. Why is that? Why? So you shouldn't start thinking about somebody else, right? So what are we talking about here, right? We have to understand. We're talking about like when you make small talk, and talk about just things, general stuff, right? Things like that. So what happens is, when you talk about small talk like that, you can like your mind kind of like diverts into other areas. Like you jump from area to area. So, like with associations, and all of a sudden you're thinking about somebody else, like all of a sudden your mind jumped into a different mode there. So that's what we want to try to avoid, this kind of thing. So it says, right, but right, we're gonna see that to say, like, words of, romantic stuff, is okay, right? In fact, it's encouraged, right? So what does that mean? If you talk like romantic stuff, what happens is that you get more, you get more desire, for your wife, whatever, for your spouse, right? So that increases desire. So it's a good thing, You're not going to come to think about somebody else because if you're talking romantic, but if you're talking about small talk, then you may, if you're talking about politics, then your mind may wander into something else. Things like that. Okay, so that's the idea. So it says, right? It says, "Ve'im siper ima v'shimesh amur malav megid adam masicho." It says right in the verse regarding a person like that Hashem will judge him for that. So what does that mean? Judge him? He'll judge him for having small talk during intercourse, which is not a good thing. He'll be judged for that too. So you shouldn't think, it's nothing, we're just talking, Come on, what's the big deal? It is a big deal, it's halacha, what can you do, right? So it is what it is. But if you want to get, romantic, a little, whatever, that's good. It's good. Something else. We're not talking about that. Okay, so נגיד אדם ממש ששיחו, אפילו שיחה קלה שבין אדם לאשתו מגידים לו בשעת הדין, אבל בענייני תשמיש יכול לספר. Also, you can talk about, the sexual stuff, right? You can get into it a little bit. You know what I mean? Why is that? Because that makes it more, right, desirable. So that we don't mind. Okay, great. So, ראית בפרק הרואה, right? רב כהנא הגנה תות פוריה, דרב שמיה דשחק, right? ועשה צרכיו. So as we said, right, this is the famous story that I told you guys, right? There was some cases where, these Talmidim, right, came, under the beds of their rabbis to hear how he has sex with his wife, Can you imagine they did this? They had the chutzpah to do this, If you would do this today, right, then they would have you, they would have you arrested for that. Okay. Invasion of privacy, right? All kinds of stuff, trespassing, blah blah blah. Right? Okay, they would throw the book at you today. But in those days, things were different. It's a different kind of lifestyle. So what happens, right? This Talmid, he went under the bed, Can you imagine? He's hanging around there under the bed, where the shoes are, And he's listening to see like what his rabbi does, like during intercourse, So what did he hear? Right? He first spoke to her, had a little fun with her, laughed, and then right, had sex, whatever, right? So you see from there, right, that he was talking to his wife. I mean, so it must have been obviously right that they were talking like romantic stuff, right? Lovey-dovey stuff, that kind of stuff, right? Which is good. Okay, so then another thing he saw was that right? If they just had a fight, let's say, right? Right? So what he would do, the rabbi, so first he would kiss and make up with her, and then have sex, because you're not supposed to have sex when you're in a state of anger. Very, very unhealthy, especially for the child which is born, right? As we said, so from that union, right? Whatever. So you don't want that. Okay. So that's what he would do: kiss and make up, and then right do what he has to do. Okay. So then he goes on. Asur shamesh b'yom da'aminan b'Yisrael kedushim. Right now we're getting to this point. So it's okay. You know what? We should do Beit Yosef first before we finish the whole chapter here in the tour. Might as well do a little Beit Yosef here to catch up a little bit. So he brings a source for this, right? About not talking during intercourse. Where is this? Chagiga Hey Amud Bet. As we said, right? If it's about the sex, you're allowed to talk about that stuff, right? The romantic, lovey-dovey, all kinds of sexual things, right? That's okay. Okay, so it says Perek Aroeh, right? Where is this in Perek Aroeh Samech Bet Amud Aleph? Talks about that. Perek Kama de Chagiga, also first Perek of Chagiga. Ubesod Perek Elu Mutarin. Also this Perek, right? So there's 3 places in the Talmud where it talks about this. Chaf Amud Bet. The Bemile de Tashmish Mutar. You're allowed to talk about sexual things, right? Lesaper Ima Upiresh Rosh. So explains the Rosh. Bemile de Tashmish Shara Learbot Ta'avato. So says the Rosh, why is it allowed to talk about sexual things? Because it makes it like more passionate, right? That's the idea. So it's good because you want to get passionate. Why? Because otherwise you're going to be like cold as ice. So how can you have relations with your wife like that? You want to get heated up a little bit. So that's why you need that. Right. So the Ran says also similar. Right. He says the reason why it's allowed to do that is in order to make her feel, like get her into the mood. Get her in the mood. Okay, בזה לשון רבה, that's what's in the Rabbah, בשער קדושה, right, over there in שער קדושה. מה שאמר שהוד מדבר עמה בשעת תשמיש, פרשו בעלי הגמרא, דווקא במילת התשמיש, שהם לצורך תשמיש. אין עמי שהוד צריך לרצותה, כגון שהיה. So the Rabbah says the same thing, right, as we just saw here, in the Rosh and the Ran. Same idea. כגון שהיה לה Kasim, or let's say, also he says if they have to kiss and make up, because they had a fight, they had a fight. Oh my God. They got to kiss and make up. So then he's allowed to talk with her, right, to calm her down a little bit, right, get her into the mood, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so that's the story. בעניין זה, הוא רשאי לדבר עמה רצותה בכל ענייני הרצוי, אבל אם אינו צריך לרצותה, אינו רשאי לדבר עמה בדברים אחרים. So he says, but if he doesn't need to do this, you shouldn't talk about other things, right? So other things we don't want, small talk again, right? Talking about the weather, talking about politics, yeah, what happened today at work, yeah, what did you do today, yeah, what kind of documents did you sign today, at your job, you shouldn't be talking about that during intercourse. Yeah, doesn't fit, what I mean, just doesn't fit in there. It's not appropriate. There's a time and place for everything, well, that's what it is, right? Okay, so good. So he says here also something like interesting and important, I guess, whatever. That he says, right, not only during the intercourse, it's not allowed to talk about these things. Also, like right before, also, you should not do that. Right? So what does that mean? Once you decide, to have an interlude together, with your wife, right? So that's when you got to stop talking about small talk. And shift the modes, right? Get into the romantic mode now, and get all the other things out of your mind, all the garbage, right? Don't talk about the elections, November 7th to this, 6th, whatever it is. Forget about that now. I mean, how much time, by the way, people waste talking about politics, it's such a waste of time. Because you're not going to change anybody's mind anyway, everybody knows what they want, so what are you talking to them about this for, Who does it help? Doesn't help anybody. One of the big problems now in this country, I hear this from a lot of people, that people are fighting about politics, and because of that, they can't even get along anymore, like we're talking about family members and neighbors, they fight so hard, they don't want to talk to each other anymore. Because they have a different candidate, you know what I mean? Once it wasn't like that in America, it wasn't so crazy like that. Now, it's become like very fanatical. Crazy. It's not a healthy thing, really. Not really very healthy. Okay, whatever, right? We all know what we want, Nobody can change our mind, Who's gonna change your mind? Okay, so let's go on. So he says But this is the whole point is, right, as we said, why don't we do small talk? Is because we don't want to think about another woman. That's the whole objective. It's very interesting, whatever. It's just something I wasn't really aware of until I learned this halacha. I didn't know this could happen. But apparently it can. בעוד שהוא משמש, ולמדתי זה ממה שאמרו דמה, מי שצריך לרצותה ופייס אחר כך בועל וכלל, ואם אינו צריך לרצותה, אינו רשאי לדבר אפילו קודם שאילת פעילה, right? So he says that, but there are also like other opinions which are a little bit more stringent. They say that if you don't really need to kiss and make up with your wife, just don't talk at all, but that's a little bit, misguided a little bit. I think the other opinions are more acceptable. We're going to see in the Shulchan Aruch, right? Okay, this is a little bit too strict, a little bit too it's a little bit too extreme. Okay, so that's good. Let's go to Shulchan Aruch and see what we got there. So we're going to Tet. So it says here in Tet, Lo yisaper ima b'dvarim she'enam minyanei tashmish, right? As we said, don't talk about things which have nothing to do with intercourse. Right? It's not romantic, it's not love, it's not sexual. So then you have no business talking about it. Right? Lo b'shat tashmish v'lo kodem lachen. Whether it's at the time of the intercourse or also right before, when you decide to already do it. Okay. Why is that? As we said, right? We don't want to thinking about another woman. If he did this, right? As we said, right? He's going to be judged for this, right? That's what it says in the verse. Where is this verse in Amos, right? Amos Daled Yud Gimel. Amur alav begid alav masicho, the Adam masicho. אפילו שיחה קלה שבין אדם לאשתו, מגידין לו בשעת הדין. They're going to judge him even for that, right? For making small talk during intercourse. They're going to remind him, after 120 years, can you imagine? They're going to say, yeah, remember when you were 39 years old and you had that strange conversation with your wife, that, you were talking small talk during the intercourse. We're going to judge you for that now. You're going to be judged. Okay? So good. So then we said, right, goes on at Shulchan Aruch here in Yud. If they're angry at each other, what I mean? They just had a spat, right? Some kind of a spat thing going on there. So they got to first kiss and make up, They can also make up without kissing. That's also good. That's okay. No, the kiss is not the important thing, right? It's just an expression, right? But the most important thing is make up, get your, heart back together, to one another. Unite the hearts, right? Bring the hearts closer. So for that person, for that purpose, he's allowed to speak with her, to make up with her, say some nice words, blah, blah, apologize, I'm sorry, I apologize, right? There's a funny, right? There's a funny Gemara about this, just remembered. You know what it says, right? He says we learn from the chicken about about this issue. The chicken, why? Because the rooster, before it has relations with the hen, right, it kind of does a song and dance for her, to make her feel in the mood. So in other words, he makes her, talks nice things to her, romantic talk, whatever, right? So if you need to do that because you have some kind of a quarrel going on, right? So be like a rooster, and say some nice words to your wife. So your chick can be satisfied, right? Gratified by your behavior, right? Right? Your hen, right? Okay, so there you go. Okay, good. So let's see how much we got here. Yeah, maybe we should do one more. Why not? One for the road, Okay, so this is Yud Aleph, right? 11. So let's try to do this one. This is what you asked about, right? Regarding the light, having relations in the light. So here's a Shulchan Aruch. Let's see Bet Yosef's tour. Let's see what it says there, and we'll come back to this in a second. Right. So says the Tur, Asur shamesh b'yom da'aminan l'Yisrael kadoshim hem. You're not allowed to have relations in the daytime, right? Why? Because Jews are holy, We're holy people. Ven meshamshim mitotehem b'yom. So therefore, that's why we don't have sex in the daytime. V'lo le'or haneh, right? Also, we don't want also with a candle, right? Same thing at night. So what does that mean? There should be no candle lit in the room that you're having intercourse. Or any electric lights, right? Same thing. It's all the same. By the way, they say in the Talmud, even like moonlight, if it's coming directly into the window, the moonlight, that's also forbidden. If the moonlight is like shining on you, same thing. Nowadays, we have so much pollution in the air. We hardly get any moonlight anymore. Too much smog in the air, so we don't feel it so much. There's also because of the light grid, we don't really get much of it. Okay, whatever. It's all kinds of stuff there, but anyway, but it says right that even though we said right, don't have sex in the daytime, but bait afel mutar, right? If it's a dark room, it's allowed. So that's what you do, if you're really like in the mood, to be with your wife, right? And it's a daytime kind of interlude kind of thing going on. So what do? Shut all the shutters, get the room dark, and you can do it, that's what we're saying. As we said, right, according to Kabbalah, this is not a good thing, especially when you're having children, right? If you're having children, not a good idea. But halakhically speaking, it's allowed.
How dark does it have to be? Like is there a
That's a good question. I always had this question, when I was young, in my younger days, I was like, what does that mean? Like, how dark does it have to be? So then I realized, after looking at the texts, like a little bit more carefully, the answer is like this, okay? There should not be any direct light on you. That's what we don't want. Like, even like a candle, which is like very small, if it's like directly on your body, we don't want that. So it's not the intensity of the light that matters. It's the fact that it's directly on you. So if you have like indirect light coming in, from the next room, let's say, right? It's like indirect. And so the room is generally dark, It's just that there's some indirect light coming in. That's okay, it's not a problem. Because it's not coming on your body, It's like going into the corner of the room, whatever, let's say, right? Indirect light. So that's okay, but we don't want any direct light on you.
Is it a Kabbalist thing, or why is it that no light should be shining on you?
Right. So there is, this halakha is halakha, it's in the Talmud, you know what I mean? But so the truth is, I didn't really say anything in the Kabbalah, more than what it says in the Talmud regarding this, In the Talmud, it brings two reasons for this. Because of the epilepsy and also because of the blemishes.
Thank you.
These are the two reasons that are brought in Talmud, and that's pretty much what we got. I don't think there's a real Kabbalah here regarding this. By the way, there isn't Kabbalah about everything, What I mean to say is that according to what we have, because we do, the truth is, right, we don't really have all the Kabbalah, we only have part of it. Because a lot of it is lost. You know what I mean? And also, you need like a special rabbi to teach you a lot of these Kabbalistic things. You can't learn by yourself, That's why, you have these rabbis on the internet, I'm teaching Kabbalah. You should know, but any rabbi who teaches Kabbalah on the internet, block him, shut him down. He's not a real rabbi, because anybody who does that is a fake rabbi. No, nobody teaches Kabbalah on the internet. Right? You don't do that. It's just not, So anybody who uses that, that right euphemism, I'm teaching Kabbalah. You're teaching Kabbalah. You're a fake rabbi. Shut him down. There's no such thing like that. You should know, by the way, the rabbis who talk most about the Kabbalah, they know nothing about Kabbalah. they're just amused with it, like they're fascinated. That's why they talk about it all the time. But actually, they know nothing about it. So the ones who really know Kabbalah, you know what they do, right? They hide it. They don't teach you Kabbalah. That's how you know that he's real. If he's real, he won't teach you Kabbalah. because you're not allowed to. You know, but the ones who talk about it, you know, Kabbalah, 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 screaming, you know, on the internet, here, there, you should know he doesn't know nothing about Kabbalah. He's a big fat zero.
Okay, but there's nothing in the Gemara that says like, I don't know, it should be dark enough that you can't tell a gray hair from a brown hair or something like that. Like, some kind of...
No. We don't have that. No, it doesn't say that. Doesn't say that. It just says direct light.
Okay, so the room itself could be fairly light as long as there's not.
I'm sorry, what was that? The woman's stuff?
No, I said the room itself could maybe
Ah.
actually like where you can see around the room as long as you don't have direct light on the person's
Right, you
body.
don't have direct light. Yes. In other words, you know, if you have some light like peeping in, you know, through the door, you know, like a crack in the door, you know, but it's not directly on your body, it's okay. So, in other words, here's the guideline, right? It should be generally dark in the room. You know what I mean? It doesn't have to be pitch dark, you know, like it was in Mitzrayim, you know, in Egypt, right? They couldn't even move their body. We're not talking about that, right? You know? It was so dark there, you know, they couldn't move. You know what I mean? It doesn't have to be like that. But what it means is that, you know, it's generally dark, you know, and there's no direct light on your body, right? Even moonlight, as we said, right? Even that's not allowed. So even if it's a weak light on your body, you know, directly on your body or whatever, no good. I hope I explained myself. I do the best I can, you know. Okay. So yeah, that's what we're talking about. So we're talking about two reasons. By the way, you know, there's, you know, the famous Sephardi rabbi, right? Ben Ish Chai, you know, who was really, you know, a big Kabbalist, this guy. So, you know, he talks about this, by the way, in his writings. And he says that something interesting, you know, he says that the minhag in Baghdad, you know, where he lived, right, in Iraq, he says it was that the first night that, you know, the husband and wife would get married, the first night they would have intercourse with the lights on. Can you imagine? So can you guess why that is? If you do, you're a genius. I have to give you an award for this. If you know, I have to get you an award.
Ask the question again.
Says Ben Ish Chai, right? The minhag in Baghdad was, right, that the first night, you know, after they got married, they would have sex with the lights on. This was a custom. First night only, right? That's it.
To see if the woman was pure?
Ooh, wow. I think only you can see that. I'm not capable of seeing that. I don't know. I'm not on that level.
Well, you'd be able to see the blood, right?
Oh boy. So you know what he says? What's the reason why? So says Ben Ish Chai, the reason is because the first night she can't get pregnant. You know why that is?
I remember. Yeah.
This is brought down in the Talmud, Masechet Kiddushin, right? It says there that a virgin girl cannot get pregnant on the first night. Why is that? Because the hymen blocks it from shooting in. You get it?
Yes. So therefore, it
So
is
therefore,
allowed.
the custom was they had the lights on.
Yeah.
Because we said, right, the problem is epilepsy, you know? So if you're not having children, there's no issue. Right? That's what the Ben Ish Chai says. But comes Maran, right? My rabbi, Maran Ovadia, he argues with this Ben Ish Chai. Right? He has a good point, by the way. Let me tell you why he argues with this. So he says, right, that it's not good, you know, this custom. Why? Because it's true, you know, the first night she can't get pregnant if she's a virgin, right? By the way, today, you know, a lot of the girls are not virgins, you know, right? So that's not exactly, you know. So that's not going to help you. Right? It's only if she's a virgin, you know, her hymen is still intact. You know what I mean? Which is not, you know, not really very common today. Because the hymen, you know, as you get older, even if you didn't have sex, it breaks anyway. It wears out. But here's the thing, right? That what I want to say, that Maran says, right? My rabbi, he says, good point. He says, but there's also another Gemara, right, which says, you know, the blemish issue. You know, he says so they shouldn't really have sex with the lights on because of the blemish issue. So therefore, he doesn't agree with the Ben Ish Chai, you know. But the Ben Ish Chai says this was a custom in Baghdad, to like this, whatever. That's what it was. It is what it is, What can I tell you? Another famous machloket between Ben Ish Chai and Maran Rav Ovadia, right? There's many of those, by the way. Many machloket between Ben Ish Chai and Maran. Okay. That gives you a little bit of familiarity with this issue, right? How it works, whatever. Okay, so let's go on. So he says, right, that as we said, right, in a dark room it's allowed. So if you close the shutters, right, you can get you can achieve like a real darkness in there. As we said, right, it doesn't have to be like Mitzrayim, dark like Mitzrayim. We're not talking about that, but it has to be generally dark. And no direct light, as we said, right? That's what we don't want. So as we said, right, that if you can get the room dark, so you can do it in the daytime, but as we said, right, it's not such a great idea to do this. This is like only if you're really like kind of like I don't want to use the word, but you're like desperate a little bit, desperate, like you're like really heated up. So like you have to do it, just like you're sometimes it happens, it's like an emergency. Excuse my expression, So if that's the case, that's your solution, right? That's how you solve the problem. Go into a dark room, But if you're having children, right, as I said, boy, try to avoid that. Don't do it. Don't do it. You'll regret it. Don't do it. Okay, so great. We got the idea. So also, he says another thing, right? The Torah. But Talmid Chacham shehu tzanua b'derchav ma'afil b'tarito b'sharei. So he says, but a Talmid Chacham, right, a Torah scholar, right? They're very modest, right? So he says, therefore, he can, we give him a little bit more leeway here. We tell him, what? Take a talit, right? Like a blanket, right? Cover yourself, and you can do it like that also. So what does that mean? You're not going to see her body, Just like cover yourselves. So you can do it like that.
I have a question.
But we only allow that for a Torah scholar. You know why? Because Torah scholars, are like supposed to be like very, like very modest, so they won't peek, they won't peek. Peekaboo! Right? They know they can't do that, when it's daytime, So they won't do it. So we trust them, By the way, I'm not sure if that applies today, because today, the rabbis are not on that level they used to be, but whatever, It is what it is. Anyway, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I have a question. You knew I was going to probably argue this whole can't get pregnant the first time you have a virgin has sex, right?
Yeah.
I'm going to argue that one.
No, actually, I didn't know. I had no idea.
Oh no, I mean, they can. People do. Maybe I don't know. Maybe Jewish women can't. But didn't Lot's wives or Lot's daughters get pregnant the first time?
Yeah, the Talmud talks about that. By the way, your question has already been asked in the Talmud.
What's the answer?
The rabbis beat you to it.
So I mean,
okay. So what's the answer to that question? It's a very good question, by the way. It shows definitely a very high IQ. It's demonstrative of a high IQ. So anyway, right, here's the answer to that question, right? So they say, right, that there is a way to impregnate your wife on the first night. But how do you do it? Right? So the Gemara says, right, you got to be a sharpshooter. Okay, you ready for that? You understand what that term means, sharpshooter?
Generally, yeah.
What it means is that you got to find a way to get around the hymen. There is a way to do that. If you know how to do that, if you know that trick to get around it, in other words, like in baseball terms, that you threw like a curveball, a slider. You put a slider in there, if you know how to do that trick, you're a real pitcher, right? You're a Cy Young Award pitcher. So if you know how to do that, then you'll be able to do it. Yes, there is a way to do it. That's the answer, So now let me ask you a question, right? Lot, who was drunk, he was sloshed, right? He knew how to do that when he was drunk. For sure not, right? So you know what it says, right? About them, about the daughters of Lot. It says in the Talmud that they broke the hymen, especially, to get pregnant. They broke it. Why did they do that? Because their whole objective was to have children. They thought the world was wiped out, So their whole objective of being with their father was to have children. They were not doing it for lust. You know what I mean? That wasn't their objective. It says in the Bible, right? Very clearly. They were not these were not the playgirls, right, in these clubs, These were decent girls, So all they wanted to do was have a child from their father. That's what they wanted. Because they thought the world was wiped out. So therefore, what they did was they broke their hymen. There's ways to do it, right? You take a pencil, whatever. That's it. You're done. Okay. I hope that satisfies your inquisitive nature. God bless you.
Certainly interesting answer.
Interesting. Yeah, interesting. Very interesting. Okay, sleep on it. Get back to me on that one. All right, so that's the story there. So yeah, okay. So I guess we'll stop here. It's late a little bit. But Hashem, so we'll continue tomorrow. All right, so God bless you. Thanks for coming. Be blessed with wealth and health and happiness. Chodesh Tov. Chodesh Elul, time for tshuva. Bezat Hashem. So Bezat Hashem, we'll be now posting posts about that, about doing teshuvah. We'll get into that whole thing. Right from the Rambam, laws of teshuvah, the Rambam. Bezat Hashem. We'll post about some things about that. God willing. Okay, God bless you. So we'll see you tomorrow. Laila Tov. Chazak u'baruch.
Laila Tov. Thank you so much.
All the best.
Bye-bye.
כבוד
God bless.
הרב, thank you so much.